Good evening and welcome to my How Healthy Are You weekly educational podcast. My name is Dr. Thomas Brewer. I'm a PhD chemist and nutritional blood microscopist. For this call or podcast, we have 3 questions. 2 of them are based on grains and the benefits of eating the different types of grains. But one of them was a follow-up on something that was in last week's newsletter. And the question was, well, how do I get the willpower to eat what I know I should be eating and to stop eating what I know I shouldn't be eating? So if you remember, there was a little section in the newsletter on that, and I referred people to a short YouTube video that was related to that. And it's extremely difficult to improve one's willpower. And it's quite complicated to improve it. In fact, in the end, what you need to do is just do it, which is a term Nike used in their promos a long time ago. It used to be just do it. They were referring to sports where just participate in a particular sport or just be your best, just try to run faster, just do it. But it's the same with eating and the foods we choose to eat because it's our choice. And every day all we get is many, many choices. And one area of those choices is food and what we put in our mouth. So the bottom line here is you just do it. Now, there are a few ways to make it a little easier on yourself. The first is you stop buying the foods you shouldn't be eating and you start buying the foods you should be eating. So once you don't have that food left over in your cabinet or in your refrigerator, it makes it a lot easier to eat correctly. So that would be my main piece of advice. Just do it and make it a little easier on yourself to get rid of the temptation foods in your house. That's a real good way to start. Okay, the other question we had, the first one on grains, was about sorghum, saying, is sorghum a healthy grain? Well, turns out it's really good. It's a very healthy grain. Protein-wise, it's similar to the other grains like wheat and rice, etc., and oats. Micronutrient-wise, so that's the vitamins and minerals, also very comparable. But where it shines is it's a good antioxidant. It's very high in something called polyphenols, and that gives sorghum a really high antioxidant level. The other thing that makes sorghum so good is there's no gluten. So unlike wheat, which is loaded with gluten, sorghum has no gluten. So that's why people like to shift to sorghum. The problem is it's extremely hard to find the really high antioxidant sorghum. The types of sorghum, the colors that are very high in antioxidants and high in these polyphenols are the red and black sorghum, and almost impossible to find these. You can find the white sorghum, and it's still good, and the white sorghum actually helps our livers detox, so it helps decrease our liver enzyme levels, so we get essentially a liver detox. In this country, we make a lot of sorghum, or at least we grow a lot of sorghum, but we mainly use it for livestock, and we export it, and other countries consume it way more than we do. So the bottom line on sorghum, yes, it's a healthy grain, but the United States isn't that interested in marketing the red or black sorghum, which would be my choice to switch over to sorghum. The next question was on brown rice and whether we should eat it, and the concern is the arsenic level. So most of you might be familiar with a fairly recent Consumer Reports article that mentioned brown rice is typically very high in arsenic, and arsenic's not something to mess around with. It's a very toxic metal. So really what you'd want to do is limit or eliminate rice. So the question was, should we do that? Well, brown rice has 10 times more arsenic than other grains. Well, that's so significant, it means we have to be careful with it. There's been many scientific studies over the past few years talking about the health benefits of arsenic and of brown rice, and whether there's a substitution or if consuming it and dealing with the arsenic eliminates the health benefits of brown rice. And in the end, if you were to summarize all the data, the conclusion is we really should be eating less brown rice, less rice in general, because even white rice has arsenic, and we should substitute out other grains, other very good rices. And the best one out there is quinoa. It looks like quinoa, Quinoa, and oatmeal. Those are the top two grains that we should be focusing on. They're very high in fiber, and fiber is really the main benefit of eating grains. That's where you end up dragging cholesterol out of the body. Remember, you can't burn cholesterol, but you can drag it out with really good soluble fiber. And quinoa rice and oatmeal would be the two grains of choice to stay healthy. A lot of heart and cardiovascular benefits from these grains. So if you're looking at brown versus white rice and you were just comparing the two of them, even though the brown has a lot of arsenic, the brown rice is still better for your heart, and it's still better for your insulin levels, meaning you do not get as high a jump in your blood sugar when you consume brown rice versus white rice. So white rice is still way at the bottom of the list for grains. Brown rice is healthier but higher in arsenic. What that means is you should minimize both of them. So don't load up on rice. I know a lot of people did during the time we were locked down last year, and people were afraid we were going to be stuck in our houses forever, and so people stocked up on rice, but and they chose white and brown rice. The healthy people chose brown rice, not realizing there's a lot of arsenic in it, and the people that went for taste and flavor went with the white rice, and it costs a little less too. But really what you want to load up on is the quinoa rice and oatmeal. So they're going to last just as long, and you'll have a much greater health benefit, especially for your heart health. So real important. So I wanted to also mention, since the world didn't end last week, I scheduled or starting to schedule some trips. So I'm in the process of scheduling a trip in the Nashville, Tennessee area in March, and I'll probably have hard dates by next week's podcast. I'm also planning on my next trip to Myerstown, Pennsylvania in April. I do not have a hard date, but I'm looking at April. I had told people I was going to be out there in June or July, but it looks like it's going to be April. And then Northern California in the Oakland area in May. So that's the list. The one that's closest to being definite is the one that's near Nashville, Tennessee. So again, I'll be doing another podcast next week. I want to thank everyone for listening. And remember, please don't keep me a secret.